Hi everyone and welcome along. Amazingly, Crumble has stayed here since our last tutorial. Up you get, bud! Can you get up? Up! Oh, there we go. What a good boy. So, what are we going to paint today? Well, we are going to paint some lovely little art supplies because I thought this would be a really fun way of also talking about what my favourite art supplies of the last year have been and paint them at the same time. So, Crumble, grab your paints and let's get started. So, my favourite watercolour supplies really are my hardest working ones and also the ones that have created the most buzz and conversation and story. So, I suppose the OG is my Sap Green by De La Rowney Artists quality. This has caused so much debate and conversation because it is a lot deeper and darker and cooler than many of your Sap Greens, but I promise you I am using Sap Green. However, we've got a bit of a situation going on. I have run out. This is the tube. I've held onto it with a bit of blue tack on the back. I can't get any more of it, so please help me. See if you can locate it. I have had a lovely patron, Patricia, tell me she can get it in Blick in America, but if anyone knows of a place that I could get it shipped to the UK, do let me know. Another colour that always gets people talking is my Paynes Grey, which is Winsor & Newton professional colour. It's a lot bluer than, to be honest, it's a lot bluer than what it looks like on the tube. But that is these two are very well squeezed out tubes. Buff Titanium is the hero colour of the palette at the moment, and just such a gorgeous new addition. And then, how do we say it? How do we pronounce it? I'm so sorry. You're shouting at the computer right now. I know you are. And I'm going to say Alizarin Crimson. Alizarin, Alizarian. I know I pronounce it wrong, but I cannot remember whenever. So I'm afraid you're just going to have to find that adorable about me. So anyway, these are my 4 colours we're going to paint. Then this is what's left of my hard eraser, which is the eraser that can rub out pencil once painted over, which is super cool. And then the brushes that I'm using the most at the moment is the pointed round brushes, but I think we have to celebrate the fact that we've got our very own branded brushes these days from Pro Art, and so you can get these in my Etsy shop and my website, and that's the only place you can get them with De Winton Paper Co on them. So I've got my size 4 and my 4/10, and then the wonderful rigger brush. So how are we going to draw and paint these? Well, I think it's a really fun thing to do. So we're going to begin by drawing out our wobbly art tubes. And so to begin with, I'm not going to draw them quite as big, I don't think, but essentially we want a bit of a curve at the top, and I like to do a bit of a wobble, but it sort of tapers out a little bit and then ends in a bit of a flattened rectangular bottom. A little bit more of a lump like that, and then a few more little ovals. But what I think would be fun, instead of having the lid on, why don't we paint it like that, and then we can actually have some of the paint just squiggling out the top. So that's how I'm going to do it. So the rubber doesn't really look like that anymore, but that's what it used to look like. Okay, for brushes, you can see that it's got this kind of swell there and it's hard to draw. So what I like to do is get a ruler and just draw a straight line. We'll get these in a nice row. And then if you imagine sort of drawing up the swell either side of it, that's quite a fat one. Maybe we'll swap that for the size 4 brush, that's a bit better. And just bring it in
there you've got your brush, and we're doing this in a nice sort of naive style, so that's kind of perfect. So I'm going to paint these actually by starting off in a slightly unconventional manner by building up a shadow around the edges of them all. So I've got Moonglow and Paynes Grey, and I want to paint a drop shadow essentially, but quite a sort of wobbly one. It's just nice to sort of try out different painting techniques and different illustration styles sometimes. You see a lot of people painting their art supplies, and I like to try and offer you something different. So, and of course the brushes are white anyway. The tubes are bits of white, so it'll be helpful, but I think it helps sort of make them just seem quite characterful. And the other thing I quite like the idea of is if I'm going to have the paint sort of coming out of the tops of these, I can make that paint sort of bleed into the shadow. So we'll do that next. So first off, I've got the Alizarin Crimson. So I mean, this is just all a big experiment, so let's just do it. So that's Alizarin Crimson. Then we've got Paynes Grey, which I need to make sure is different to the shadow mix. Nice. Buff Titanium. So I should have probably done Buff Titanium first because it's so influenced by other colours, and in fact there we go, there's Buff Titanium. Oh no, that's Sap Green. Okay, I might do a little redraw. We'll put Sap Green on the last one and I'll redesign the tube. Deary me. There we go. Sometimes when you want to paint and you don't really know what you want to paint, this can be a really fun topic to look at your art supplies and just enjoy having a go. So I'm going to begin with my eraser, my rubber, and it's got like this little barcode on it, so I'm using some Moonglow and some Paynes Grey, and I'm just going to paint the grey end, so that's the ink end. And I think so the sort of story with this is one of the most sort of asked about things on my channel is this notion of being able to rub out pencil or not. So you see I'm just creating a little bit of a almost like a backwards rectangle there, because this section is white, so I'll just give it a little bit of shadow. Yeah, like people are insistent that you cannot rub out pencil after it's been painted over, but this, and actually a few other of my erasers, but this is the one I sell in my kit, this begs to differ. It says no, you actually can rub out pencil, and I don't know if it's because of a combination of using good paper. I think it's probably that combination of good paper and painting lightly and choosing your moment to rub out pencil. But I have loads of videos that I talk about that very specifically, so if you're looking for that, go to the watercolour painting for beginners section and you will find out more. So we're going to move on whilst that dries to my Sap Green. So I saved it. This one now is a scrunched up Sap Green, and this is my actual Sap Green. So I'm going to paint it in, but I'm doing this in a quite stylized way today, so I want to get a bit of unpainted space and shine on the tube. So there we go. Having painted it in, we only need a little bit more. Just pop in a little bit down the side there. And the rest, we've got a bit of black, we've got a bit of writing, but for the rest I'm just going to use my shadowy mix. And get in those little divots there. And I think I'll sort of enjoy drawing in the writing and things with a pen. But it's a tube that's seen some time, this tube. Like, I wouldn't even actually be that surprised if that tube has been with me since I started the business in, what, 10 years ago this year. Maybe 10 years ago at the end of this year, so we're looking forward to that milestone. And up towards the top, it's metal, so we will just use a little bit of grey to just capture that, but of course it's probably going to pick up. There we go, that's better. A little bit on the sides there. You can always add a tiny bit more. So yeah, I think this is a really fun little exercise to paint your favourite paints and think as to why they might be your favourites. So I just painted buff titanium off screen so that I can show you the alizarin version on screen. So here we go, starting with a nice band of colour. But once I've painted that in, I'm going to clean my brush off, because these tubes do have a shine on them. So I'm just going to leave that like that. Maybe drop in some stronger colour in on the side there. And then we've got the little flower in the square. So I'm going to do petals outlined. And we've got a sort of wobbly middle, and then some sepals, and I'm going to colour in what's left around the edge there. And then I'm going to use my black, get a slightly larger brush for that. Actually, no, before I do that, just remembering I did a little bit of shade first down the sides. Let's capture a little bit of that red. It's quite fun because, you know, we're painting these in a stylized manner. And now we can get the black. So I'll paint in this bottom twist or fold at the bottom. Clean off the brush. Remember, everything has opportunity to be light and dark, light and shade. And then obviously we've got the wet amount of shadow we've just painted in, so just be mindful of that when you're painting this section. I'm still sort of looking at the tube the whole time, looking at where the light bounces off and on. There we go. We'll be, yeah, I want to scribble on the writing with a little pen. I think that'll be fun. So a little bit of grey up the top. A tiny bit of really deep, dark, concentrated colour to get some of those twisty caps in there. This one's an interesting matter because I just don't think this is that colour. But we'll place it in, and the manufacturers can get back to me with their comment on this, because yeah, well, you can see for yourself, can't you? So because this one's quite twisty and squished, we want to make sure that we get lots of highlight and low light. Yeah, I like that. I like that. So tiny bit of stronger Paynes Grey. It's funny to be painting shadow onto something that is the colour of Paynes Grey, because you use that colour to be the shadow. I'm sort of confusing myself now. And then, of course, we've got the matter of what colour to paint this, because it's a very different colour, isn't it, in that? So I think what we'll do is we'll take some black, take some blue. Oh look, and we've got Paynes Grey. Let's just try with some dilute black first, shall we? I think that is going to be probably the answer. And again, I'm not sort of overthinking this one too much. I just know that there's lots of light and shade, so plenty of brush strokes, plenty of unpainted space and water. Maybe a bit of Moonglow, maybe not. And we can use that for our silver brush sections here, but I will get a smaller brush to manage that. It's just all about trying to capture the way that the light and the reflections sort of travel up and down these metallic handles. However wobbly. And what's nice is we've got the shadow painted on the outside to help sort of tell the story of these brushes. I'll just put a tiny bit of extra black. That looks nice. I added a few streaks of yellow ochre and burnt sienna to the bristles, and now we've got a gold tip on the rigger brush, so there's a bit of lemon yellow, and we'll place in some yellow ochre in there as well. I want to place just a little bit of shadow, just sort of on the brushes. Just help them with their shaping a little, even though they have got the outer shadow for them. You can just help them stand out a little bit. And we'll put the black in there, and then we can have some fun with our pens. But I keep spotting things that I haven't painted, like that up there. This is my kind of fun painting, I must say. This is the kind of thing I love to do. So yeah, why not have a think whilst you're watching this about your own favourite art supplies and how nice it might be to do a little homage to them in a painting form. Now I know a lot of you have so many more art supplies than me, so you're going to struggle to narrow it down. Pick your favourite paints, pick your favourite brushes. Like picking a favourite child? I mean, I couldn't possibly comment. Luckily, Crumble's the only pet. Actually, that's a point. A lot of you are asking, like, where's Lola these days? Well, Lola lives with my mum, actually. We've only ever sort of temporarily looked after Lola. So yeah, Crumble doesn't have to worry in terms of the pecking order. Okay, we'll let this dry fully, and then we can have plenty of fun with the detail. I'm also going to lightly rub out the pencil, and of course as I'm talking I'm like, Harriet, you haven't painted in this black section here, you fool. So yeah, hopefully in a minute I'll have painted everything we need painting. So I've got my Winsor & Newton Colourfast fine line pens, and I'm just going to have a bit of fun with adding in some detail on these items. So first off, it's the funny little barcode on my rubber. Then we've got De La Rowney here, and obviously there are bits that are black which are going to be difficult to do because I'm not going to sort of start getting in there with a white pen, and this is all very much a sort of scribble. I don't want there to be too much detail, so I'm just going to sort of choose what I put in. Because I think the moment you start to try to get every bit of detail in, it's when it starts to lose its charm, because we're not really trying to depict something exactly. So all the little bits of writing down here can just be done with nice little sort of illegible scribbles. I might put but on the whole, it's very down to you what you want to leave in and leave out. When it comes to one that is a bit twisted up or wobbly, then just draw what you see, to be honest. That's all I'm doing with this one. And if you've put your creases in, then that'll be really helpful as well. So I can sort of see some kind of dragon's head, or what is it, like a griffin? I tell you what, yeah, I think it's a griffin on the front. I have just read the most lovely adventure fantasy book called Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundell. I mean, as an adult, I adored it, but it's just been shortlisted as like the best children's book of the year. So if you have, kids in your life, or you fancy a book that's sort of, I don't know, inspired by the kind of Northern Lights genre, the sort of Amber Spyglass and the Philip Pullman books, or even, fan of sort of Tolkien style adventures, then this is a fantastic entry level book. And I learnt all about all the sort of impossible creatures, I suppose, things like griffins and mermaids and sphinxes and all those kinds of things. So yeah, highly recommend Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundell. Now here's some very left-handed isms coming in. I've painted my brushes as if I'm picking them up by the left hand. I hope you'll forgive me if I do my logo from a left-handed perspective. Now you'd think I'd be able to write my own name. That's fun. So just finishing up, very much enjoying creating a rather wobbly tube, and just pick and choose the bits you want to write on and which bits you can just do a little bit of scribble. And there are my favourite art supplies. I've absolutely adored painting this, and I really hope that you have a go too. Share your work with me on Instagram, tag me at Winton Paper Co, and I'd love to see your very own personalised version of this piece. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and comment to let me know how you got on with that one, and we'll see you again next time. Bye!